handout. So you'll see there's 3 talks we're going to do today. So go past the picture of me where I've got much more hair, and you'll find session 1, the uncertainty of life. That's where we're going to start. Everyone good to go? Doing all right? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Are we in the game? Are we up for this? Sound. Okay, we've got 3 talks, and I need to do a little bit of setup for the 3rd talk in the first talk. So this next 5 minutes has got nothing to do with what this session is about, but you need to kind of put it in the bank, and we're going to cash it in the 3rd session. Is that all right? I just need to make sure that you've got some things in your head before we get going. Here's number 1. You know that moment where you turn up at school, you get into a classroom, and instead of your normal teacher, there's a supply teacher. Now, what goes through your head in that moment when you see the supply teacher? Beauty! And you're going, if you're like me, today we can get away with anything. Feel that? Swap names with your mates, all that kind of stuff. Be whoever you want to be. Imagine the same scenario, but you walk in, instead of a supply teacher, your teacher's off, but the headmaster or the headmistress is standing at the front of the classroom. What's going through your head then? Today we can get away with nothing. Know what I mean? Or maybe a different dynamic. You're sitting with a bunch of guys, and maybe a group of pretty girls walk in. How does the dynamic change in the room? It does change, doesn't it? You can feel it. Everyone stops farting, sucks the stomach in a little bit, all that kind of stuff. Imagine then, like, a policeman walked in, or your granny walks in. The dynamic changes, doesn't it, depending on who's in the room. Are you with me? Okay, we'll come back to that. Second one, this is a 5p coin. You see that? I think it's the smallest of the coins. You can take a 5p coin, and if you position it rightly, you can use it to block out the sun from your view. Now, is a 5p as big as the sun? It's not a trick question. Is a 5p as big as the sun? Let's just check. No. But you can position it rightly. You can block out something as big as the sum of the 5p. You got that? Okay, next one. I've got 3 of these. This is a balloon, okay? Everything in me wants just to let this go, but I'm going to store this up. Anyone hate balloons? There's a little bit of a hand there. Is this freaking you out? A little bit. My dog hates balloons. Obviously, you're in the same category as my dog. Only in regards to balloons. Oh, wow. Okay. Some people hate balloons. Some people love them. But very simple thing. You put too much pressure on a balloon, and what happens? Anyone hate balloons bursting? Because I'm not going to do it right now. We might do it later. I'll give you a warning. But balloons, a lot of fun, but if you put too much pressure, boom, right? Last one. Anyone know what an aperitif is? Why are you laughing? Anyone know what an aperitif is? I think sometimes they're called hors d'oeuvres. Are they the same thing? Anyone know what they are? No. I think an aperitif is when you turn up at like a really posh restaurant and they give you like a tray of really small things of food. It's not like the main course, but it's basically saying food might be a while, this is just to keep you going. Everyone know what that is? Why did you all laugh at me when I said aperitif? Okay, so 4 things. Like dynamics about who walks in the room, we got that one. What was the second one? The kind of the coin thing. What was the other one? Balloon, aperitif. You're more in the game than me. Are we all right? Tuck that away, and we'll come back to it. What time's the last session? About 7:30, something like that. Can you remember it till then? We'll maybe recap it in the second talk. All right. One last thing, just to set this thing up. I need to tell you that parents, nursery school teachers, particularly youth leaders, have been lying to you for quite a long time. And one of the places they've been lying to you is they disguise things as games that are actually just to get you to do things that they want. Do you know that thing? So like, right, someone as excitable as Rachel. Right! Let's see who can pick up the most cones. Now, what's that telling you about that youth leader? What a lazy brute. They just don't want to do the work. Here's the other one. And it's probably a nursery school teacher or something. Let's play Sleeping Lions. Everyone know that game? What does that tell you? They've got a headache. They just need peace and quiet. Let's play Sleeping Lions. We've got one we do, I think, called Street Team in Gracemount, Friday night, just like kind of loads of kids from the community play a bit like dodgeball and that, bit of football, and then we play a game of Helpy, which is just get everyone together, and then we say, right, you've got 20 seconds, you have to run and hide, and then we'll come and try and find you, say 1, 2, 3, help you caught, and then you have to help us catch everyone else. So we go 20 seconds, and then we'll come, go. And at that point in the night, we're just all goosed, and we kind of go, should we just chill for a bit? And they all hide. And we sometimes take like 20 minutes just to sit and have a chat. They're hiding up a tree or like behind a bush, and we're just still chilling on the front steps of this old mansion where we do it. A lot of the games that your youth leaders, nurseries, teachers, parents play with you are lies to get them to do what they want you to do. Are we aware of that? Okay. Here's another game, which is as pointless as all of them. Who can catch the wind? Now, great game, particularly if you've got kids that are high energy. Go and catch the wind. But can you do it? Not a chance. Now, that game, try to catch the wind, something that you can expend a whole lot of energy doing, but never, ever achieving, is actually a game that puts into words the feeling that a lot of people have about life. It's a game that the teacher in this book, Ecclesiastes, comes back to again and again and again to put words on our experience of life. You try and find fun in life. You try and find satisfaction in life. You try and find purpose in life. You try and find a meaning in life. And do you know what it's like? It's like trying to catch the wind. We're always running, never catching, always chasing, never satisfied. And the world will tell you there's lots of different ways to try and catch the wind. Some of us like to try and catch the wind by how we feel. Any people who like feelings? It's probably more, guys are rubbish at that, aren't they? But I want to feel loved. If I feel loved, I feel like I will have caught the wind. Some of us just want to feel like we have a purpose. Some of us want to feel popular. Others want to try and catch the wind by what they have. So if I've got all the latest tech, if I've got the latest Xbox, if I've got the newest FIFA, or if I've got the nicest brands, or if I've got, whatever, then I will have caught the wind. Other people like to do it in what they know. So maybe it's academic stuff. If I can just get these grades, I'll have caught the wind. Some of us, like me, aren't so good in the academic stuff. Maybe it's like about knowing all the gossip. Some people like that, They just know everything. Some of it's just about, maybe if I can just know myself, see if I can just understand my feelings, my emotions, who I am, then I'll have caught the wind. Or you go back to COVID stuff and you go, if I can just know all the conspiracies, how's the Illuminati, that's behind all this COVID stuff. If I can just know all that, then I'll have caught the wind. But what's the reality? You can't catch it. It's an impossible game. It's always just out of reach, and when you feel like you've got it, it's gone. It's like Christmas, isn't it, when you're a kid? I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. And you get it. How long does that satisfaction last? Till about 9 o'clock on Christmas morning. And then what do you want? Something else. It's gone. It's like trying to catch the wind. You could end almost every day by going, how did you spend today? I was trying to catch the wind. Did you catch it? Nope. Have you got anything to show for it? Nothing. And the writer to the Ecclesiastes puts that into another phrase. He says, catching the wind, you get to this point where you go and you look at life and you go, meaningless, meaningless, everything is meaningless. Sound like that Lewis Capaldi thing that we heard at the start. What's the purpose? And he's not just saying, when he says meaningless, meaningless, everything meaningless, he's not just saying that there's no point in anything. He's saying everything is so like fleeting. Nothing lasts. Now, that's what I want to show you in the first talk and in the second talk. I actually don't just want to show you, I want you to feel it. We've got 2 sessions and then dinner. I kind of want you to go to dinner feeling really frustrated. Sorry. But I think you might go away, if you've been not just listening but engaging, feeling disorientated, discouraged, despondent, and desperate. A cheery Scottish guy to come and do the Irish Youth Convention, isn't it? Typical Scot. But I want you to feel this. I want you to feel the weight of what this book is saying about our actual experience of life. Is anyone not able to be here for the third talk tonight? Has anyone got to leave before the end? Because if you do, you should probably just leave now. Because otherwise you're just going to feel really depressed. You need to come back for the third talk. All right? We just make a pact now that you're definitely going to come back, because otherwise, yeah, I'm really, really sorry. We're going to be here. We'll see. Okay. Let's get into Ecclesiastes 8 that was read to us. And in this first session, I'm going to show you the uncertainties of life. Okay? In what was read to us in Ecclesiastes 8, I'm going to show 3 things that make life fairly miserable because they make life very uncertain. Okay? Here's the first one, from verses 1 to 6, and then 9 and 10. Let's read it again, just so you're seeing it in the Bible. And this is looking at the uncertainties of authority. All right? The uncertainties of authority. Let's read from chapter 8, verse 1. Who's like the wise? Who knows the explanation of things? A person's wisdom brightens their face, it changes its hard appearance. Obey the king's command, I say, because you took an oath before God. Don't be in a hurry to leave the king's presence. Don't stand up for a bad cause, for he will do whatever he pleases. Since a king's word is supreme, who can say to him, "What are you doing?" Whoever obeys his command will come to no harm, and the wise heart will know the proper time and procedure. For there is a proper time and procedure for every matter, though a person may be weighed down by misery. Now skip down to verse 9. All this I saw, as I applied my mind to everything done under the sun. There's a time when a man lords it over others to his own hurt. Then too I saw the wicked buried, those who used to come and go from the holy place and receive praise in the city where they did this. This too is meaningless. The uncertainty of authority. The view you get here is of a king who's pretty unpredictable. He's all over the place. And although the preacher, the teacher here says, you should probably obey the king because you made a command before, took an oath before God. Obedience to this king is not a black and white thing. It's more of a grey thing because the king is so all over the place. Here's a king who's more crooked than straight. You have to be careful how you leave him, careful what you stand up for, careful about how you question him, because he's a man who loves to lord his authority over other people. And so that makes life pretty uncertain because you don't know what to do when, what's the right procedure for the right time, and if I do the wrong thing at the wrong time, what's going to happen to me if he's the king with all the power? Do you see the dilemma that's going on in these verses? A king who's super unpredictable, and it makes relating to him super complicated. And so look at the end of verse 6. How does this make the guy feel? End of verse 6. The person is weighed down by misery. The uncertainties of authority make life misery. Now, can you imagine a world where people in authority make life uncertain? It's not that hard to imagine at the minute, is it? Can you imagine a world where politicians change more frequently than a teenage boy changes his pants? That's where we are, isn't it? Can you imagine a world where a politician in authority breaks his own rules, loses his own job, and then ends up on a celebrity TV show? Can you imagine a world where those in authority haven't sat in the government for ages because nobody has a clue what to do and what's going on? Can you imagine that? Politicians speak so confidently that they like to give the impression that they have caught the wind. They haven't, but they have to pretend like they have, but they haven't. And when you have people in authority who make life uncertain, that filters down to all the rest of us, and it can make life misery. Now, you probably don't get this as much as some of your youth leaders in that doing because you're not paying a rent on a house or mortgage, but just wait a few years and you'll see even more that those in authority make life misery sometimes. Life is so uncertain. Here's the second thing from Ecclesiastes chapter 8. The uncertainties of authority. Second, uncertainties of the future. Look at verse 7. We'll read 7 and 8. Since no one knows the future, who can tell someone else what's to come? As no one else has power over the wind to contain it, so no one has power over the time of their death. As no one is discharged in the time of war, so wickedness will not release those who practice it. Let me ask you a question. How much of your emotions do you think are spent on worrying about your future? I wonder what some of the things you worry about are. Maybe what you're going to do when you leave school. Maybe about what the bully's going to do to you at school or on social media next week. Maybe about what's going to happen to that loved one who's just had a pretty brutal diagnosis. I don't know, but my guess would be all of us spend a lot of time in our little heads worrying about unknown futures. Would that be fair? Again, if you're like me, it's a place where those anxieties get magnified when I put my head in the pillow at night and it's just me left alone with my own little thoughts. You feel that? It's definitely something that's magnified by social media. You feel that? But here we are, drowning in anxieties about what may or may not happen tomorrow. And who are the most annoying people to speak to when you're struggling about future anxieties? It's the person who comes to you and says, everything's going to be okay. I hate those people. Because how do they know? It might not be. Now, our relationship with the future is fairly interesting. At one level, we like to kind of plan for the future. It'd be nice to have a partner like this, and a job like that, and a house like this. Some of us like to kind of try and predict the future. So we go, who's going to win the World Cup? That wasn't a rhetorical question. Who's going to win the World Cup? Argentina? Brazil? Did someone say Canada? The answer is Qatar. Qatar are the winners, aren't they? These corrupt people who are just going to get richer. That's who wins the World Cup. We like to predict the future. We like to try and plan for the future. If I can work this hard and get these grades, then maybe I can go to... See, everyone from Northern Ireland seems to end up in Edinburgh for university. What's that about? But yeah, we kind of try and plan what our future might look like. But the bottom line is, we don't have a Scooby-Doo, do we? Ecclesiastes 8 says, we've got no power over what the wind will do in the future. We've got no power over death. We've got no power to release ourselves from the consequences of the wickedness that we have done in the past. Life is uncertain, and we are powerless in the face of it. If someone asks you, what are you going to do tomorrow? What's the only honest answer? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I'll make it till tomorrow. Uncertainty about authority, uncertainty about the future. Here's the third one in Ecclesiastes 8. Let's read verses 11 to 14. And the last one is the kind of uncertainties of injustice. Get verse 11. When the sentence for a crime is not quickly carried out, people's hearts are filled with schemes to do wrong. Although a wicked person who commits 100 crimes may live a long time, I know that it will go better for those who fear God, who are reverent before him. Yet, because the wicked don't fear God, it will not go well with them, and their days will not lengthen like a shadow. There's something else meaningless that occurs on earth. The righteous who get what the wicked deserve, and the wicked who get what the righteous deserve. This too, I say, is meaningless. I think we get a pretty keen sense of justice from a pretty young age. It doesn't take much for a little kid to shout out, "That's not fair!" It's one of the reasons why we kind of have a love-hate relationship with VAR in football, isn't it? Oh, we are desperate for justice. And so we were kind of going, oh yeah, VAR is going to make everything fair. There'll be no more arguments, no more disputes, everything perfectly fair. Aye, right. Scottish Premier League has just introduced VAR. I think they bought it from the middle aisle at Aldi, because it is bang average. It is a terrible VAR system, and it's just made everything worse. We want things fair. But what do you learn pretty quickly in life? Life is not fair. He says the righteous get what the wicked deserve, and the wicked get what the righteous deserve. You can actually look at life from the point of view as someone who's a believer in Jesus and go, it would seem that life gets harder for those who follow Jesus, and life is easier for those who don't. Often it feels like being good is pointless and being bad pays well. The righteous seem to be the ones who are chasing the wind, and the wicked seem to be the ones who are at rest. We've got a lot of people in our little church who have suffered horrendous abuse, often at the hands of people within their own family. And they're living with the scars of physical and mental and sexual abuse. And the scandal is, most of their abusers have never faced the consequences for their actions. Life is not fair. Can you look at us sitting comfortable here, and you think of the same number of young people currently probably still in Ukraine, and you go, what a different experience for people living there. You know, put these two things together. We don't know the future. Life is unfair. This time last year, do you think we would have been sat here going, in a year's time, we'll be 9 months into a brutal conflict within our own continent that has caused 17,000 civilian casualties. About 6,500 civilians dead in Ukraine. About 10,000 civilians injured in Ukraine, simply because an uncertain authority in another country has got power hungry. Life is unfair. Are you feeling the weight of this? It is pretty grim, isn't it? Uncertainties about authority, uncertainties about the future, uncertainties about injustice. Now, at one level, what I want to make sure you've got out of this first session is that you know very, 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 very clearly that you know not very much at all. We would love to be able to say, one of the ways I feel like I can catch the wind and find meaning in this life is just getting my head around what is going on. If I can just know everything about the wind, then maybe I can catch the wind. But Ecclesiastes says, you just need to be very clear that you know that you don't know very much at all. And I want you to feel the weight of the uncertainties of the world that we're seeing in the pages of the Bible and that you see in front of you every single day. Now, don't get me wrong. You should have a hunger to know stuff. You should have a thirst to know more stuff. You should have an intellectual curiosity that is desperate to know more stuff. But we need to be clear about how much we don't know. And the feeling I want you to be feeling at the end of the session is a frustration, but also a longing. To create a longing in you to go, I have a longing for someone who would be a good absolute authority. A longing for someone who knows the future. A longing for someone who will one day bring complete justice. But we need to know, it ain't no politician. It ain't no worldly courtroom. And it ain't you or me. And the remarkable thing that I hope we'll get to see is actually one who would give up his authority to submit to crooked, cruel authority, both at the beginning and the end of his life. Who, even though he knew his end was a brutal future, he walked towards it willingly. And although he faced a rigged trial and faced the injustice of being condemned when he was innocent, he's come to make everything new. And I hope you have a frustration about the world of uncertainty we live in, but at least a longing to find out if there is someone who would come and be that person for us. Have we got our heads in the game? You need to speak because it's black out. I can't see a thing. So unless you actually speak, I can't. You might have all left. Are we in the game? Okay. Do you want me to pray? And then we'll do something. Let's pray. Father, one of the ways we try and cope with the uncertainties of life is by distracting ourselves with trivial little things. But Father, I pray that today wouldn't just be about distraction. It wouldn't just be dealing in trivialities. But you would come and bring the truth of your word that would bring not just distraction, but genuine comfort for our lives. And I pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thanks, Andy. If you'd like to stand with us, we're going to sing two final songs. So let's stand.